Hi, everyone. Welcome. You didn't get rid of me yet. And I brought people with me. Welcome to this panel on marketing and community building. I am the host, Lauren. I am the marketing and social lead at Into Games, and I am joined by some very lovely, lovely people today to talk about their expertise in the role of marketing and community building. So let's start with introduction. So Lauren, if you want to start.
Yeah, I can start. I totally didn't write down everything because I'm terrible at memorizing things.
That's
Hi.
totally okay.
Hi, everyone. I'm Lauren. My pronouns are she, her, and I am the community manager at Coven, which is the games industry's first accelerator bootcamp for people of marginalized genders to help them break into the games industry and make our industry more inclusive. Yay!
Yay!
Prior to Coven, I was a freelance fundraising and community manager, and last year I raised roughly $100,000 for independent developers or studios. What else do I want to say? I'm a Safe in Our World ambassador. I really care about mental health. Please talk to me about mental health. My background's in corporate marketing, which I'm sure we'll get onto later, which isn't half as fun as games. And I recently adopted a greyhound who is now the love of my life, and I want to buy a house so I can have a whole pack. It's going to be fun.
Yay! Oh, well, welcome. And how about you, Poppy?
Hi, I'm Poppy, and I'm the Senior Community Manager at Bossa Studio. So predominantly working on Surgeon Simulator 2, which is set to come out on Xbox and Steam in September. So super close, it keeps edging closer. And I also volunteer in the industry as well with Into Games, Make-A-Wish Foundation, Special Effect, etc. So yeah, as if I wasn't busy enough, any volunteer opportunities, send them my way. But thank you so much for having me.
Oh, thank you so much for coming. And then how about Grace? How about you next?
Hi, I'm Grace. I'm currently the lead community manager at Creative Assembly, working across the Total War franchise, currently mostly focusing on Total War Warhammer 3, which is the third in our trilogy. Also trying to do volunteering outside of work, and I'm also on the GDC Community Management Summit panel. So,
welcome. And then last but certainly not least, Brynmor.
Hi, I'm Brynmor, or Bryn. I'm the community manager at Team Junkfish. We are currently working on Monstrum 2 Early Access, and we're just celebrating our 6th-month anniversary of being in Early Access today.
Congrats!
Thank you. I'm very excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, absolutely. So yeah, I mean, just starting off, we all have various journeys in how we got to where we are in our career, some coming from journalism, some coming from other industries. So I wanted to know, how did you know that you wanted to get into games marketing? So we'll start off with Poppy this time.
I don't think I actually knew. I didn't. It wasn't something that just occurred to me and I wanted to do it. It was kind of an accident, really. I had a big passion for English and copywriting and generally just chatting with people, and games marketing was something that I was fortunate enough to fall into off the back of doing a social media and digital marketing apprenticeship, which was in the public sector, which is definitely not as exciting as games. And yeah, games kind of came about, and now it's all I've been doing for the past 4 or 5 years, and I wouldn't change it.
Oh, that's awesome though. But no, I totally understand what you mean. I think a lot of us have that experience where it's just kind of like, this happened. Yeah. It just sort of occurred that I ended up in the industry.
Yeah, for sure. It definitely just creeps up on you. And I feel like once you're here, you can't imagine doing anything different.
No. All other industries are just like, no, I want my squishies. I want my people who understand my words. And then how about you, Grace?
Yeah, similar thing. I actually started out studying journalism at university, and I was a music journalist for a few years. But then I realized that if you want to make any money in journalism, you have to go to kind of like the big papers I wasn't super comfortable with. But I didn't think that games was an option because I grew up thinking that if you were in the games industry, you were a programmer, or you were a developer, or you were doing something complicated. Not that this can't be complicated at times. But then I actually got into watching Let's Plays, and I was researching like what that was. It was one that was done by like a company, and they had a community manager. And I thought that sounds super cool. And then actually on the journalism website that used to post journalism jobs, they happened to have a community manager job. I thought I'll apply for it and I won't get it and I can get it out of my system. And then like I managed to get it. And this was at Jagex. And yeah, it just completely changed my life. I love the games industry because I feel like you're always going to have something in common with someone. Like you're going to have watched a show or played a game. So it's such a lovely industry to be in because you know that it's so easy to make friends, even if that's a bit cheesy.
Oh, no, completely. Like there's nothing like going into the office or going into a Zoom call and you just have some kind of common ground with someone other than what did you do this weekend? Oh, I lived, I drank, I saw rain, you know?
Yeah.
And then how about you, Bryn?
Much again, I wasn't fully expecting to go into community or marketing at all, really. But I graduated last year from university, doing a theatre degree, and
Yay, 2 degrees.
let's go. Kind of throughout my theatre degree, I always wanted to be a creative, but I realized that being a creative needs backup with technical skills, so the behind the scenes stuff for the writing. But I found that my favorite thing to do behind the scenes ended up being marketing for theatre. And then there was this little thing that happened last year. I don't know if anyone remembers it, but it was a little pandemic that kind of hit everyone, and kind of everywhere theatre shut down. But I realized that I had all these skills in marketing that I've been working on for the majority of my degree. And I realized that I could apply that to any industry that I really wanted to go into if I just pitched myself correctly. So for from about April-ish, I was applying to jobs in the gaming industry within community and marketing. And I was finally able to get a job in October.
Fantastic.
Just constantly applying whilst I was still studying and things like that. And then working like side jobs and things just while I can, figure out exactly like what I wanted to do within the industry. But I knew that I because of marketing community as it was, I realized I could pick the industry. So I was like, okay, I know what the job is. I can do whatever I want with it. And I found myself very happy where I am. So yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. Amazing story. But yeah, no, it is like just amazing where your life can take you.
Mm-hmm.
And then lastly, you, Lauren, how did you get into games marketing?
To games marketing.
Yeah.
Just kind of fell into it. No, I was doing a
I love
different
it.
industry
It's all of our
marketing.
answers.
Yeah, it wasn't on purpose. Well, actually, no, it kind of was on purpose, but it wasn't like a life goal. I was doing other kinds of marketing that was kind of made me depressed. And I was like, I want to actually help someone. So I quit my job and went freelance and was like, I'm just going to apply. I'll see what happens. And then one indie studio had a role and they took me on. And yeah, now I'm here.
Oh, yay.
Just apply.
Yeah, just apply. But I mean, to sort of add my experience as well, like I went into theater. I went into theater as my degree. And then I started doing games journalism. And then through games journalism, I was working on my own site. And then I just practiced a lot with social media and with building a community on a forum way back when. And yeah, so getting to where I am now took some networking and took some, elbow grease in sort of setting up my brand on like social media and around the industry. And then I was very graciously taken on as the social and marketing lead last month for Into Games, which was amazing. It actually is like my first official job in the industry. So you never know when it could happen. So our first question from Discord is actually from someone named Swirling Firefly. Who asked, what are your favorite games marketing or community management source of insight/resources? This could be a podcast, a website, YouTube channel, or streams. How about we start with Grace this time?
Sorry, it takes me a few minutes to unmute each time.
That's fine.
Yeah, I actually find most of my inspiration from outside of the games industry, which I think is quite important. While I find individual community managers to be very inspiring within the industry, that's more in terms of like how they deal with the job and how they present themselves externally. But I think in terms of the marketing aspect of it, I find it very interesting to look outside of the games industry, because I think sometimes there's kind of trends within the games industry, and someone does something and we're all like, that's so cool. Like, I want to do that. I want to do that. And I'm definitely guilty of that. But I definitely think when I want to find something kind of more unique, I think car manufacturers actually do very interesting things with like their Instagram and with their Facebook. And I find as well, obviously there was a big fast food trend with Wendy's. I think Innocent Smoothies do really cool and interesting things with their Twitter as well. So I think all of that is very interesting. I also look at We Are Social. They have like a Friday roundup of everything that's new on social media platforms and new things that like Instagram might be developing. And I like to look at those and see how we can take advantage of those as well. And then finally, just Googling like social media campaign awards, like the Webbies and things like that, and seeing what people have done and not copying, but thinking, how would that look if we did that from our perspective? Like, what aspects of that can we be inspired by and can we utilize ourselves going forward? So those are kind of my main touch points.
Yeah, I think that's like such an important aspect of what we do and what people do in the industry as well, is that everything can be a remix of something. It doesn't necessarily have to be that you're like, quote unquote, like stealing or anything. It's that you're remixing, you're inspired by it and like recreating it in your own light and stuff. It's really good. It's really awesome. So how about you, Bryn?
I think a lot of my inspiration and kind of like how I learned to do things and like, figuring out what needs to be like worked on and like campaigns and things really mostly comes from other people within the industry more than anything else. I think that I've taken a lot of inspiration from, larger Twitter accounts like Grace was saying that like I've been following and watching for years, and like they've always been very inspiring, but I haven't had a personal connection with them. Whereas when I moved into the industry, I was able to, I personally took it upon myself to do as much as I can to network and meet other people within the industry and learn from them as much as hopefully they might learn from me, because everyone has something to learn and everyone has something to teach. So when it comes to kind of, campaigns and marketing insights and community management and building as a whole, kind of the people around me and the people who have taught me are definitely like the biggest points of inspiration.
No, completely. And then how about you, Lauren?
Yeah, that's a really good question, because I was really pondering on this and like styles of marketing. I was like, well, actually, I mainly just focus on accessibility now that I'm with Coven, because we're all about reaching people who might not have access to resources or access to anything that I would have access to. So I really like UX designers and UI designers. I think they're a really fascinating source of information. But then also, I really focus, and Coven really focuses on communities built on kindness. So Victoria Tran is a huge inspiration, and if you haven't heard of Victoria Tran, I highly recommend you Google her name.
She's awesome. V-Tran on everything, pretty much. And then how about you, Poppy?
Yeah, I think that, the best resources for me, kind of how Bryn mentioned, was definitely other people in the industry. So I find a lot of inspiration and support from places like the UK game industry Slack channel or Discord community server, which is actually run by Discord themselves. And as Laura mentioned, love what Victoria Tran does. Like, check out their website. It's really, really great. But certainly, like, it's the people in the industry who really help and direct me with where to go, and seeking out inspiration from other studios too. I'm not ashamed to admit that I go on other Twitter accounts and I see what they're doing and I'm like, I should totally do that for Surgeon. So yeah, just feeding off what's out there already, really.
I do really love Surgeon Simulator stuff as well, just because the game just is phenomenal for hilarious content as well.
Yeah, thank you. It writes itself, in all honesty.
It's so good.
Itself.
It's so good. But yeah, but this is all fantastic and some really great resources here, and ideas. So I mean, aside from that, like tools that we all use, I know I'm a big fan of Hootsuite and Buffer, and Canva as well. Do y'all have any favorite tools that you use on the day-to-day basis? I'll start with you, Bryn.
I think that there's a lot of variety in kind of what happens in day to day and like what specifically you need to do within community management and marketing. With anything that helps you analyze like demographics and audiences and kind of brings in data numbers can be helpful. I know Hootsuite's got good tech for that, to kind of analyze things as a whole. So to Sprout, but I actually very much do, if you are running a community and building on marketing and things like that, going directly to the source and taking the extra time to, like, for example, going to Twitter analytics. Facebook analytics is a bit of a nightmare, but it's still like data. Discord analytics is some of the best out there, I would argue. It gives you the most information, exactly what you need all the time. I personally do monthly reports for analytics within our company, and Discord has always like been the most helpful. It gets you exactly what you need, and it very much shows you what you're doing right and what you could be doing better. I'll always big up Discord analytics any day of the week.
Just use it. Just everybody.
You should. Anyone should use it. You got to serve with your friends. See how they talk. See what they're talking about.
Yeah.
As well as that, Twitch analytics is also really good as well. But overall, numbers is one of the hardest things for me. I don't know if that's anyone else, but I wasn't exactly super excited to come in to do some maths when I joined into the gaming industry, but I have found myself doing that. And any social platform is there to help you more than you think it is. And I always argue going straight to the source is the best way to go about it.
Yeah, completely. And then how about you, Lauren?
Yep, I'm going to second all of that. I thought I was going to be bringing some spicy takes to just go natively into the analytics.
Lauren's hot takes.
Oh, I'm so happy someone else has said that as well. Thank you so much. Yeah, 100% go native into the platforms. I also prefer to schedule natively. I don't want to dunk on Hootsuite too much because I know it is good, but there are some concerns when it disconnects platforms, and then you have a client whose content hasn't gone out and you think, oh my gosh, I got to fix that, and then explain to them what's happened.
Yeah.
But yeah, scheduling services can be great, but that's something I also prefer to do natively. Canva is really cool if you're working with a big team, and it's also really good for, like budget types, budget constraints. That's really cool. Personally, I feel like I'm quite privileged in that my degree taught me how to use Adobe, and that not a lot, some of my paycheck every month goes to Adobe, because I just love it, but I know it can be a bit expensive, so each to your own.
Yeah, no, completely. I'm a bit of an Adobe nut as well. I can't live without my Premiere, honestly.
Can I say one more thing about that? Do you mind?
Absolutely.
Kind of like with kind of Adobe as a whole, I think that if you have the opportunity to like learn Adobe Suite and things like that, it is a wonderful opportunity to have. And I always back up, like, especially, you know, the suite as a whole is very good for individual things. I would highly suggest learning a program from Adobe rather than learning all of them, because it is so overwhelming. But as soon as you understand and learn one, there are tools and things that make it easier to learn all of them. Even jumping from photo editing software from Photoshop, when I started to teach myself Premiere, I realized I could a much easier jump from like Photoshop to Premiere because the system is built by the same people. So it kind of like the skills can drag over quite well. But again, it is a very expensive platform to use. And if you need practice with things like that, I would also suggest Canva, which was mentioned earlier, because I think that's a great place to start with asset creation.
And like, I know Adobe also, like, not to keep banging on about Adobe, like, geez, they should freaking pay us for all the advertising. No, but for Adobe Spark as well is actually like a really easy way. It's kind of like a Canva, but it's just Adobe'd instead. So if Adobe kind of scares you a bit, you can start with Adobe Spark, which is really user-friendly as well. But yeah, I use Illustrator so much now. Like my husband's not got on to the Illustrator campaign, but I'm just like, I'm all about my Illustrator. But yes, no, that's perfect. And then how about you, Poppy?
Yeah, I used to definitely at the start of my career, I used to get super bogged down with all the different platforms, and I wanted to get the best platform possible, whether that was Social Bakers or Hootsuite or, you know, all the different ones out there. But as Bryn and Lauren mentioned, I now prefer to do a lot of stuff natively. So I schedule natively. I take advantage of stuff like Twitter Media Studio. So I can upload video files that have call to actions in for people to click on. Analytics, again, I much prefer to go natively with that. The only thing that I do really use a tool for, which I think is quite important, is social listening. So monitoring indirect conversations about the studio and the game. So every time someone, this probably sounds super creepy to people who don't do this job, but every time someone tweets Surgeon Sim but don't tag the account directly, I can pick up on that conversation and I can choose to interact, or if it's a support inquiry, I can give them a hand with that. And to do that, there are tons of tools out there, like super expensive ones like Meltwater, etc. But I use something quite modest called Agorapulse. And Agorapulse allows you to do basic scheduling, reporting, and listening. But definitely native is easier. I personally found that I couldn't find a single platform that did everything. So I kind of just DIY'd it.
So we are literally on the hunt. Anybody listening, we are on the hunt for something that does it all. Just does it all, please. Please save us. No, but yes. And then how about you, Grace?
Yeah, I agree with Poppy where I think social listening is incredibly important. We have like quite a large audience. We have like about 500,000 on Facebook, or I think like 50,000 on our Discord, which we're very lucky to have. Total War franchise has been around for a long time. And we just wouldn't be able to keep up with everything that people are saying. So we actually use Brandwatch. And it's really useful because it's not just things like people mentioning like our games or like our studios. But for example, before we released one of our games a few years ago as an Epic exclusive, we could find out what our audience was saying about Epic, what their concerns were, without asking them directly. Because if you ask people directly, you tend to get the loudest voices and the most extreme opinions, which are valuable, but it's more useful if people are having those conversations organically to find out what those opinions and thoughts might be. Or it might be something, if we have a bug and we're not sure how widespread it is and people aren't reporting it, we can find out what the mention of that is. If it suddenly escalates over a weekend, we can get email alerts. So we find that to be very important. I also agree scheduling natively can be beneficial. I think especially platforms like Twitter, if you want to do like the image descriptions for people using screen readers, I don't think that option is available via TweetDeck or via Sprout. And then finally, something which isn't necessarily software, but we find really useful are translation services. So for example, we have a very large Chinese audience, a Chinese player base. If we want them to be able to access our content and our blogs, then we want to make sure that they're able to read that in their own language. So thinking about different communities, which I'm sure everyone does here, and how to speak to them, not just a language, but culturally as well, and what's important to them is also something that's quite important to us.
No, completely. Like that's a very, very fair point. The only other thing that I would recommend in this is like kind of more on the podcast aspect, but something that's really helped me recently, especially when trying to come up with content to share, is a transcription tool. So for a while, I was hiring people to transcribe my podcasts, and like obviously, you know, if you have the money to throw out a transcription person, like do it. But it just got to be to the point where I was just kind of like, this, I can't afford to keep to keep paying for these transcriptions, and so I actually started using a service called Descript, which is like about 15 quid a month. But the value that it's brought me is the fact that I can transcribe whole panels like this. And, you know, if I didn't want to have to like sift through hours of content, trying to find one quote that somebody talked about, or trying to understand what somebody said, or just like re-listen to something, Descript has been extremely helpful for me to just help me out in getting like the gist and the idea of what somebody is talking about. With it just saves me a load of time. So I definitely recommend that if you're on the market, or that's something that might apply to something that you're promoting. And then moving along, we have a question actually from Tom Bradstreet from our Discord, who asks, how do you feel about using memes to drive engagement? I'll start with you, Lauren. Oh, no.
I don't know. I'm awful at memes. Memes? I'm not the one to ask. I'm really bad.
Oh, bless you.
I'm sorry.
It's totally okay.
It is something I want to get better at. Maybe it's my millennial showing, but I'm just not great. Yeah, I would really like to be able to. And then also kind of linking back to the accessibility thing I was speaking about earlier. I know memes generally go across cultures, but it would be really, I'm really into researching that. That's really cool to me. But I suck at it.
So interested, but in as we say in the kids, I'm going into it. I'm going into the interest of memes. How about anyone else? Does anyone else have any comments on using memes or memes?
I feel like this question specifically came for me because all I have to offer by way of content strategy is memes. I mean, you know, I work on Surgeon Simulator. The game itself is just hilarious and awful in the best way possible. So memes are definitely a big part of my content strategy, and they probably take up about 80% of what we post online. And it's so funny because I never thought that every Monday morning I have a meeting with one of our content creators, and we just come up with meme ideas for like an hour and a half. And some of them completely go over my head, and some of them I understand. But yeah, it's really important for us because they're shareable, they're super easy to understand if they're, quite a simple layout. And yeah, like it's just a big thing for us. Like that's just, I don't have a lot of skills, but making memes is a big part of the job.
Yep. You can do that with Surgeon Simulator, absolutely.
Yeah.
How
I
about
think-
yeah, go ahead,
Sorry,
Bryn.
I was gonna back that up of just this kind of thing of for our socials, I don't really make much many memes kind of for our socials and things like that, but I'm ready like to make something on the fly. I don't plan any of them out.
Yeah.
This is gonna make me feel old, but it's like it's the most recent memory that I have of when we were ready to do one. Do you remember there was like that one in January of just Bernie Sanders sitting down in the seat and things
Oh
like
my
that?
gosh, I love that one. Yep.
We just edited him into one of our promotional pictures and said he's going to be a new skin in the game.
Yes.
And it was just like the only reason we made that was because like it was happening right now. It's funny, so that's just kind of what like it's quite an easy thing to pop in and do.
Yeah, it's easy to
I
pop
kinda- yeah.
Bernie Sanders into all of your daily
You can
socials.
pop it in easily. And I kind of think that I have the same mentality towards a lot of things within marketing and community and things like that. It's a slightly more serious answer for a meme question.
It's cool. It's cool. Bring the seriousness.
I always make the argument that you shouldn't do something unless there is a reason to do it. If you just are making, if you're just making memes for meme's sake, then it kind of loses credibility of when you actually make something funny and also relevant to the game.
Yeah.
I think that kind of one of the bigger things surrounding it is like just like planning and strategizing. Poppy said goes in to have a meeting about it. It's sometimes it's about being on the fly, but if you make it for no reason, like if it's not like important towards the progression of the campaigns or the community as a whole, then there isn't actually much point in doing it.
Yeah. Make sure your confused Pikachu means something.
Exactly.
Make it mean something.
Yeah, I mean, I would completely agree with you on this. I feel like maybe I'm coming from a more like corporate angle, but I definitely think marketing is part of what we do. And I think while engagement is obviously like always a worthy goal, I'm also thinking, how can we get people to the Steam page? How can we get wish lists? How can we get players? So instead of just like one time someone at work messaged me about that like Heinz baked beans smoothie thing. And he was like, oh, I keep seeing this. We should do something with this. And I was like, why? So I definitely think things that promote an aspect of the game. For example, there's one where it was like, started from here and now I'm here. And we could show what our game looked like 10 years ago and what it looks like now. And that's showing our growth. It's showing how our game's visuals look. If someone sees that, maybe they're going to be interested. Maybe they're going to want to check us out. So I think it's like any other tool. We don't want to be like, hello, fellow kids. I think as well, sincerity in brands is something that people really resonate now. They don't want to feel marketed to or spoken down to. So I think, as Bryn was saying, if there's a goal and there's a point to what you're doing, I think it's a valuable tool like anything else. But I definitely think doing things for the sake of them can sometimes lose the point of your Twitter feed or your Facebook feed or what you're actually trying to achieve with it. From my corporate perspective, I'm like, what about the players? Let's get people to the game.
Yeah, no, completely. There does come a point where it's just kind of like, all right, not every idea is a good one. Not every meme is a solid meme. Okay.
That literally happens to me like every single day. I'll make a meme and I'll think it's so funny, and then I show it to somebody else, and they're like, "What?"
I love it. But so it's good. It's good. We all go through this process of just like, and even it extends onto general like marketing. Like you just think like you have this really great idea for a tweet or a campaign or something, and then it doesn't always catch the way that you expected it to, or somebody finds something in it and you're just kind of like, oh, okay. But yeah, no. So definitely memes are for people to use, but use them sparingly and use them smartly. How do you do, fellow kids? There you go, chat. So another question from Discord. This one's from George, who wondered, how much should social media be driven by research and data versus intuition? So we'll start with you, Poppy, on that one.
Yeah, that's a good one. I personally need to make more of an effort to be more data driven, because I'm definitely not the most data driven community manager in the world, because I feel like a lot of what I do personally in my role and with the type of game that I work on, a lot of it is just intuition. It's a lot of, how to put this in the best way, it's a lot of throwing stuff at the wall until something sticks.
Yep.
You know, I can't predict what social content is going to be successful, because honestly, it depends on the current climate, what's going on externally, the weather, depends on how long people are going to watch your video for. If it's sunny, they're going to be outside. So there are so many factors that can decide on how your content performs for you, that you can't always rely on the data to advise you. That being said, I definitely do reflect it, what's been successful, and try and figure out why that was successful. So can I see any common themes with successful content? Like, is it all GIFs? Is it videos? Is it all static? And that's probably about as far as I go in terms of deep diving and getting the data. If my manager's watching this, like, I definitely do look at loads of data. Like, don't worry about it. Like, I'm really looking at the data. But I'm sure everybody here knows that, you know, with social and community, it's just, a lot of it comes down to luck as well. It just comes down to what lands right at that moment in time.
Yeah, no, that is the thing. Like I am like definitely a creative, the more like creative side of the aspect rather than the data. But I know what data is really important. So it's just getting that creative side to like marry the logic side that needs some. I need a workout plan for the data
Yeah,
side.
it's really
I need a
hard as
P90X
well.
that.
It's so hard as well, because like, you can create an asset and I can't explain why it will do well. I just know that it will. Do you know what I mean? I don't know what the magic formula is, but I know that if we post this GIF, people will like it.
Yeah.
And I think it's something that you just pick up on over time. And every game's different as well. So it largely, you know, I'm sure how Grace drives the social media community for a much bigger studio is probably way different to how the indie studio does it.
Completely. And how about you, Grace?
Yeah, I mean, from my perspective, again, personally, it's not super about player size for me. When I've worked at smaller places, I've kind of had a similar approach in that I kind of have my long-term and my short-term strategy. So for the short term, that's absolutely intuition. It's being reactive. It's just knowing how to apply to people and what resonates with them. And I think that's incredibly important. I think we're almost like embedded within the community where we should just know things because they know things. But I think long-term, that's where we want to look at our data and look at our approach. For things like Facebook video, for example, if people are turning off within the first 5 seconds, then I need to make sure we're not showing a logo in the first 5 seconds. And if people are watching them on their phones, I need to make sure that we've got subtitles there. And more long term as well, we find it important to work with like brand managers. What are they trying to achieve? Like, what are their like specific words or themes, and how can we show that within our social campaign, and how can we appeal to people? And with Brynmor, for example, if we release a video and everyone's talking about a certain aspect of it, I think that's really important to mix in with the reactivity that maybe we want to showcase this unit when we hadn't previously thought of. So I think the data is really important. I think it's really important to do both. Part of being at a large studio is that I am lucky that I have a team. It's not just me. I imagine if it's just you, that's much harder. So it's a lot easier for me to have that time to sit down and think about the long term of the data, because I'm very lucky to have amazing community managers who are helping me with the short term and the reactivity, and also contributing to some of the long term stuff as well. But I definitely think it's important for me to look at both, because I want to make sure that people are getting what they want and being served. And to go back to accessibility as well, I think that's always something that we're trying very hard to think about.
No, I think that's all really, really, really great stuff, Grace. Thank you. And then Bryn, how about you?
I think that, because I'm doing both kind of myself, as Grace said, I'm the only community manager at my company, so and the only person on the community team, so the kind of whole thing is, I'm looking at the data and I'm trying to use my intuition, but I think that every single time that I've realized like, oh, this is working from my intuition, because like the data, it's so blaringly obvious. Like if something's really not working, it's really going to hit. And if it's really working, it's really, really going to hit. I think that my initial reaction to like research and data is like, I'm going to have to fine tune like the 0.001% of what this means and stuff. It's like, no, 600 people like this and only 300 people like this. So that means that does better. So I'm going to do more of that. It's a lot simpler than I thought it'd be. And I think it is very much just listening to the data rather than trying to go insanely analytical about it. But again, this is definitely from a smaller audience perspective. I feel like with a larger audience perspective, it might change, but I can't comment on that. I've only known the smaller audience perspective.
Yeah, listen to the data. Take it out to dinner. Take it out for a nice meal. Schmooze it. Give it some wine,
Exactly, yeah.
You schmooze that data. You
Learn more
schmooze
about
it.
Ask it questions. Don't just sit there and talk.
What is your favorite color, data? Please tell me.
It's red because all the arrows are going down.
Exactly. Damn it, data. Oh, no. So then how about you, Laura? Do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I'm just like, how am I going to add to this? Because I want to second everything that everyone has already said.
Approved.
I'm definitely a data-driven person, and I think that comes from my corporate background. But saying that, I sucked at math in school. I was awful. But I mean, when it comes to fundraising, there's like a lot of risks you take, and so it was my job to minimize. Like, you can't get rid of the risk, so I just have to be able to understand the data to minimize the risk. And then with Coven, and again, talking about accessibility, just generally knowing which countries and what devices people are using to reach your content or read your content, because ours is all about signing up for programs to help you. I've just got to know that stuff. I got to know if we're reaching the right people, and you do that with data. So
yeah. I think it's extremely brave, especially it's amazing what we're all doing, but particularly when you were championing like games from indie devs who had like, very, very, very small followings or had failed Kickstarter campaigns before, for you to step in and be able to help them succeed was just just absolutely stellar. So thank you for everything that you've done for those little indie games that could, So I mean, I think we have time for just like one more question. So just to close us out, do you have any advice for anybody watching this amazing panel thinking, I want to join marketing? Where do I start, or what do I need? Any lasting advice? So we will start with you, Lauren.
Oh my gosh.
I put you on the spot.
Yeah, you did.
It's 2020.
2021.
Dun, dun, dun. Oh, sorry. I meant the show, not the year.
Oh.
But then I immediately thought about the year, and I was just like, oh God, abort. But yes.
I'm sorry. Okay. I think my one bit of advice is that don't think of, that was about to come out really negative. Community management is not a junior role. It's not an entry-level role. Being a community manager means you've got experience in handling difficult situations and being able to handle either a negative outcome or a positive outcome from that difficult situation. So please don't try and be a community manager straight away. Go into like community assistant or a moderator if you're not yet at an assistant level, and just get involved with the community like you're really passionate about. It doesn't have to be games, it can be anything. And I always say like experience is so much higher than education, at least when it comes to hiring for me. So if you've got a degree, great. If you don't, but you've got some moderator experience, fantastic. Cool. Do it. You can do it.
Do it. Just do it. Yes. And moving on to you, Poppy.
Oh, wow. There's so much that I wish I could just tell people to help out when they're first getting started. One thing that I will say that has been so immensely valuable for me, both personally and professionally, is just build relationships with people. Join Discord servers, make friends, take advantage. There are so many great initiatives out there, such as Into Games, such as Limit Break, mentorships. There are so many ways to build connections because, whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, this industry runs on connections. Everybody kind of knows everybody. So yeah, having those relationships is super important. And then throughout the whole process, Rome wasn't built in a day. It does take a little while to reach being a community manager or senior community manager. But all along that path, just remember your worth as well, because it's very easy as an entry CM to have crazy workloads, to have a lot expected of you. So just remember what you're worth. And if you're in doubt, please just reach out to anybody. I mean, speaking for every community manager I know, we would be happy to talk because talking is what we do all day. So yeah, there are people out here to give you a hand.
Just grab any community manager. Just grab us all.
Just talk to us. Yeah, we love it. We love it.
We love you. We'll love you. And then how about you, Grace?
Yeah, I think completely agree. I think when trying to get into the industry, grabbing experience like anywhere you can, like Lauren was saying, like moderating, even if you just moderate a Discord server with your friends, that's so valuable. And even if you work in retail, for example, I'm sure you have to deal with difficult customers, with irate people. Maybe you have to handle some toxic people. That's all valuable experience to be thinking about. And then, like Poppy was saying, when you're in the industry and you have your job, that support network is so vital. Not necessarily even like emotionally, but just getting a second opinion on things. Like I really value, again, working with two other CMs just to say like, what do you think about this? Or like, is this phrase right? And my friends at other companies, again, like Papa saying, being professional, because people do talk, and it's not like there's some like blacklist that goes around. It's like your friends are CMs at other companies. So if you're behaving negatively or unprofessionally, like people are going to mention it just because they're talking to each other about their day and their jobs. So I think being professional, finding that support network, and thinking about everything you do and how you can use that as experience or gain more.
No, completely. And then you, Bryn.
Yeah, sorry. So as a final, I'm last. Great. Poppy stole my one.
You're good, Bryn.
It's
you're
two
still
really,
great.
really tiny things. It's the first thing is the best advice I was ever given was when I was trying to make films. It was, you don't need a 100,000 pound camera to make a film. You have one on your phone. You don't need to be a community manager to build a community. My first ever community I ever built was a Facebook group for a band I really liked. And we went from having 0 members to having 12K members in 3 years. And that was what I pitched myself as when I started getting into community management, of that I did this on my own. And honestly, it was just constantly working at it in my free time because I had a very similar interest to all these people that were joining in. And I remember bringing that up in my first interview, and they were like, wow, that's really great. It's a great thing to have. And my second really minor thing, because it is kind of similar things to what Poppy said, but I really do want to say it still. You aren't alone in looking for jobs or even in the industry. It's very easy to feel like you're doing everything on your own, especially in community management when it can feel like a very solitary job sometimes. So you aren't alone, and you are a game developer. And that's what I'll say to finish it all out.
Yes, we are games developers. Woo! Yes, no, oh my goodness. Thank you all for such a great time and a great advice and a great panel.